All members will please come to the floor. All members. Mr. Clerk, how about ring the bell, let everyone know we're getting ready to come back to session. All members, please come to the floor. We're ready to call one of our most important bills of the year back to the floor. All members come to the floor. Chairman Hatchett is recognized for a motion. Chairman Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House agree to the Senate substitute of HB 67 as amended by the House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 67 by Burns, the 159th, Jones, the 47th, Abstration, of the 104th, and others to be entitled an act to amend an act making and providing appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025.
Chairman Hatchett is recognized to explain the Senate substitute and the House amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, you have two items on your desk: the actual bill that was passed by the Senate, and then a smaller document that highlights the amendment and the differences between the Senate and us. And then the final column to the right is where we ended up. I guess you could say it's the conference committee, but there was not a formal conference committee done. As you know, this budget, as the Speaker just said, is the one piece of legislation that we are required to pass, and I would argue it's the most important bill you have before you today. But given the day's calendar and other bills working to cross over, I'm going to be as brief as I can. This budget includes an infusion of $4.4 billion of the original FY 2025 budget, which we passed last year. You can do a lot of good things with $4.4 billion, and we have. But for me, the centerpiece and the most important element of this budget is the storm relief package we've crafted. Together with the Senate, the House is delivering a total hurricane relief package in this budget of $862 million. Combined with the legislation drafted to provide tax relief for those Georgians who will feel the impact of the storm for years to come, the total relief provided under this dome this session is well over $1 billion. Thank you. The House and Senate agreed with the governor's storm relief package, which addressed the most immediate and pressing issue of cleanup and recovery efforts including $145 million in the Governor's Emergency Fund, $299 million in the Department of Transportation to backfill lost revenue from the motor fuel suspension, to clean up debris in state roads, and to repair and replace damaged infrastructure, including signs and traffic lights, and $100 million in direct ag and timber relief. Working together, the House and the Senate built upon the Governor's package by including an additional $18 million in the Governor's Emergency Fund to help meet the state and local match of 25% for the debris removal. The House and Senate felt strongly about adding $185 million in additional relief for the farmers and timber producers, for a total and unprecedented appropriation of $285 million. These funds will provide loans and continued debris cleanup. We know that there's pent-up demand for these funds as Georgians that were in the path of the storm continue to rebuild and replant. Agriculture and timber are important industries in our state, and we want to support them. But the reach of Helene went far greater than any of us could have ever imagined, and people are still hurting. The House and Senate agreed to provide a $25 million to the One Georgia Authority to engage nonprofits to help rebuild the lives and communities of storm victims. The House version of the amended budget recognized the unanticipated role that our community hospitals played in the storm response, going far beyond meeting the immediate medical needs of their communities by utilizing their own limited resources to provide food, water, shelter, and care to many who had lost everything. The Senate agreed, and this budget before you includes $22 million for 27 hospitals and 8 FQHCs in the major disaster declaration area to assist in their financial stabilization and recovery efforts. Moving on to public safety, and before I talk about the Department of Corrections, I want to shine a light on a success story in the Department of Community Supervision that demonstrates a return on investment in our human capital, our state employees. Officers in the Department of Community Supervision are responsible for supervising offenders who are on probation or parole and for monitoring their reentry back into the community. If you've been here for a few years like me, you know that improving the recruitment and retention of state law enforcement officers across multiple agencies has been a priority. Back in fiscal year 2021, officers in the department were making a starting salary of $35,000. Just 4 years later, we've improved that starting rate by $20,000, and it's having a positive impact on the agency. Last year, turnover in the agency was just 4%. Because of this improved retention, additional funds are needed, and the House and Senate added $4.5 million to cover projected personnel service expenses for the rest of the year. It's a good problem. Now moving on to the corrections. I told you several weeks ago that hurricane relief was a priority of this budget, and addressing the needs of the Department of Corrections was the other. Working together, the House and Senate have agreed to a package of support of $345 million for the department that prioritizes staffing, safety and security, and technology upgrades. Like community supervision, the Department of Correction is also seeing improvements in recruitment and retention. Salary enhancements and marketing efforts are resulting in an increased number of hires, and additional salary steps and compensation for longevity is also resulting in improved retention. Because of this, an infusion of $50.9 million is needed for new correctional officer positions, which will be utilized to improve staff to offender ratios. We've had a lot of conversations about funding for these modular units, which, despite how the name may sound, are actually maximum security prefabricated correctional units that hold 126 inmates each. The House and Senate have agreed to fund 4 of these units as recommended by the governor at a cost of $80 million. These units, along with an increased contract with our private prison partners for more bed space, are part of the state's master plan to shift inmates out of aging facilities temporarily so that long overdue repairs and maintenance can occur. The budget also includes $17 million to continue the implementation of managed access systems and drone detection to fight contraband inside the wire. In addition, the House funded and Senate agreed to nearly $18 million for new body cameras and tasers, as well as a surveillance system improving the safety of both officers and offenders. These safety tools link to an Overwatch logistics unit, so when either is turned on, surveillance officers can immediately zero in on disturbances and send additional correctional officers if necessary. The budget also includes funding for the department to continue contracts with consultants who can provide additional recommendations for cost savings and safety improvements, as well as oversee the implementation of enhancements funded in this budget. There are a few other differences between this version of HB 67 and the one that passed this chamber a few weeks ago that I'd like to point out. On economic development, in addition to the $501 million in coastal surface water resources in GFA, the final version of HB 67 includes an additional $266 million for sewer and water infrastructure for communities not impacted by the surface water expansion resources. These funds will go a long way in helping local governments access funds for water and wastewater to meet the needs of aging infrastructure. The House and Senate have agreed to an additional $5 million to recapitalize the Downtown Development Revolving Loan Program at the Department of Community Affairs. This fund will provide access to low-interest loans to communities across the state for revitalization of their downtown areas. If you were able to listen to the Economic Development Subcommittee hearing, you heard the Agricultural Commissioner talk about efforts and their rapid response to combat avian influenza. This is the other AI. Related to that need, during the bird flu event in January and February, the Poultry Veterinary Diagnostic Lab ran in a 2-week period the number of tests normally run in 6 months. This highlighted their need for additional equipment, and this budget includes $90,000 for 2 additional PCR machines so that the lab can stay ready to respond and support our poultry industry. And turning to health, there's $2.8 million is provided in the Medicaid budget for quality incentive payments at skilled nursing facilities across the state. We know there's a physician shortage in our state, and one of the best strategies we have for solving that problem is through our residency programs, as we know that doctors are more likely to become established and stay near where they complete their residency. To that end, the Senate added and the House agreed to fund $21.5 million for new and expanding GMA programs in South Georgia. We hope to build upon this foundation in the 26 budget as well. In the Human Services budget, the House and Senate recognized an unmet need for our foster youth and added $38.5 million in the Department of Human Services for growth and utilization, acknowledging the increased cost of foster care across the system. For our veterans, the House added $1 million to the Senate, and the Senate matched for a total of $2 million to support the opening of a new subacute unit at the War Veterans Nursing Home in Milledgeville. This new unit plans to open in early 2026 and will provide intensive services for veterans with severe mental illness and traumatic brain injuries. In transportation, the House and the Senate agree to enhancements in the state's intermodal programs of rail and airport aid. with Airport Aid receiving $7.8 million and rail receiving $12.9 million to continue upgrading state-owned rail to Class 2 standards. Finally, the budget includes $265 million for local road projects, a slightly higher figure than when the budget left this House. Mr. Speaker, those are the highlights of the differences between the House and Senate on this amended budget and the proposed amendment. I'll yield for any questions and ask for your favorable consideration on the Senate substitute to HB 67 as amended by the House.
The gentleman has a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
To your left, Whip Park, right on the front, has a question for you. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
So I greatly appreciate the hard work on the supplemental budget. I did have two questions. First on, I think it's 17.4.1. First, let me express my appreciation for the House's appropriation of $35 million initially. The Senate, of course, proposed 15, and we saw ultimately an agreement of $21 million, or at least a deduction with respect to grant programs for critical hospitals. Will those funds be added to the big budget, or can you speak a little more in terms of the decrease in those grant programs?
I'll speak to how we came up with this number. The number that we had when we did it first included all of the rural hospitals. The Senate then came back and said they only wanted to provide assistance to those that were actually in the path of the hurricane, the designated zones. There were about 3 or 4 different calculations, and we settled on the 21.9. So I didn't disagree that that's probably was the major intent, and the structure of the help for the hospitals evolved over even after we did our $35 million, and it became more of a grant program, so we could do what they asked.
Thank you for the clarification. With respect to the Department of Corrections, likewise, we saw some reductions in Section 19 for pharmacy services, for repairs, maintenance personnel, contraband detection, with an increase in correction personnel. Could you, again, provide a little additional information and clarification as to the reasoning and whether or not we may see some of these appropriations in the big budget?
So as the whole budget proceeds through the process, we're always getting, as I call it, later data. And the reductions are from later data that we receive from the governor's office. The increase in the staffing of corrections is their number. They are having more success at hiring, and they do need more money strictly to fund positions that they are getting and have now through the end of the year. And that number will continue to increase in 26 also.
Again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your hard work. I look forward to supporting this supplemental budget.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Gentleman yield for another question.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Werkeiser, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this provides critical financial relief to those families who are recognized by the federal government as disaster relief areas, and that they can deduct qualified losses?
Yes, sir. And that, I think I've maybe spoken too much about the need in that part of our state from this well this year, but you are absolutely correct.
Gentleman yield for a couple more.
Yes, sir.
Representing Park Cannon, right out in front of you to your left, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, do you yield?
Yes.
Thank you for your work on this budget. I have a question about the 27.8.2. It's the startup funds for school safety threat assessment. Can you tell us more about that program? We're ending up on $1.5 million for that.
I think you will see, perhaps today, a lot more about that program is coming out of the Education Committee today. This is an initial start on the whole program, and it gives them a little bit of a starting money to go ahead and start working on the whole threat assessment program.
Okay, thank you. Do you further yield?
Yes.
And so that this bill you're saying that's coming will tell us how schools can qualify for that?
Yes, I don't know the details on it, but I know it's coming out of our education, and Chairman Irwin could probably enlighten us all on that.
Okay, thank you. Do you yield for one further question?
One more. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Section 38.1.2, this is a public awareness campaign on the impacts of vaping. I'd like to thank you on that. Will this be a multilingual public awareness campaign?
I'm not aware of it being multilingual, but as many things in this, they evolve, and I'm sure a request could be accepted for that.
Mr. Chairman, just update. We will hear the school safety bill tomorrow, so that information will not be presented today. We can't share everything with you, Mr. Chairman. But now,
I probably mislistened earlier.
no, you didn't. Representative Al Williams, to your left in front of you, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
On behalf of Representative Edna Jackson and the entire coastal delegation, we certainly want to thank you for your consideration of Savannah State University. Much needed.
Thank you. We appreciate being able to help.
Somebody in the back would say the Representative Williams. That's the Savannah State University. Representative Barnes, to your left, is recognized for a question. To your
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Mighty
Does the
Barnes.
gentleman yield?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for the additional nutrition services funds that you added on 22.2. How have we identified those 10 sites, and how do the sites apply for the grant, being that we only have...
What was the last part of your question? How does what?
How do those sites apply for the grant to
sure
get those summer meals?
They apply through on the Department of Education and DECAL, and get it. But they have all the requirements and the guidelines on that.
Does the
I
gentleman yield
personally
further?
don't know all of them. So, yes.
I would like to say thank you for these funds for these summer meals, as we did not have funds for summer meals last year. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, you have one more question to your right to clarify a situation. Representative Edna Jackson from the great city of Savannah is recognized for a question.
Mr. Chairman, do you yield?
Yes, to
Thank
the
you.
lady from Savannah.
Thank you so much. And from the Savannah State University. I just wanted to say Representative Al Williams has said what, but I wanted to say thank you for really recognizing that the oldest history, all of the history of the university. Thank you for helping us to do those things, because we needed this money. $6.7 million is really going to help us to do some of the things that we need to do right away.
Thank you, Representative. We met with the present president of Savannah State University last week, and I think the Savannah State University is headed in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Speaker, with that, I will yield.
You have a question from the Chairman of Transportation. He wants to congratulate you if you would take that one.
probably wants to
Y'all could have talked about this since y'all sit close together, but Representative Jaspers is recognized for a question if you'll accept it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I don't know.
Well,
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
if you don't, but I've been whispered in your ear, it looks like. If you look on pages 26 and 27, this is just amazing commitment to all the different transportation projects across our state, whether it be air, rail, and road, and freight infrastructure. $500 million is absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with the governor and the Senate to make sure we keep that going.
Mr. Chairman, you have another further question. If you accept a comment from behind you, I'd like to make one, if the gentleman will let me do that. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you personally and for Senator Tillery and y'all's hard work and the governor. This budget is a fiscally responsible, conservative budget that makes investments all over this state. But I can assure you that the folks that were impacted and are currently being impacted by the results of Hurricane Helene, this budget will make a difference. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your big heart, your compassion, and your hard work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But as many of us in here, it's not in our notes, so we might forget to mention it. But this lady sitting right here, Miss Christine Murdoch, y'all don't know the hours she has worked, especially in the last week, to get this done. So thank you. And all her staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman is yours the well. Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? Hears none. Chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 67 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machines? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machines? On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 170, the nays are 3, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 67 as amended by the Senate. For what purpose does Representative Hatchett rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that this House immediately transmit the Senate substitute to HB 67 as amended by this House immediately to the Senate.
Representative Hatchett moves that HB 67 be immediately transmitted to the Senate. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 32?
House Resolution 32 by Representative Estration of the 104th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to increase the maximum acreage to qualify for an assessment and taxation as a bona fide conservation use property. This resolution having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, and that committee recommends that this resolution be adopted by committee substitute.
Leader Estration is recognized to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you here today H.R. 32. This resolution is a constitutional amendment consistent with legislation this body previously passed this session, which would increase the cap on CUVA acreage to 4,000 acres, from 2,000 acres to 4,000 acres. That's all that this would do. Would ask for your favorable consideration. This is a critical measure for protection of family farmland in our state and for protection of conservation land within our state. Currently, we have a situation where if acreage exceeds the cap, we're in a position where either that land has to be in multiple family members' names or there's some other potential that would be reutilized for a different purpose. By passing H.R. 32, you voting in favor for it, it's a strong message of support for family farmland in Georgia, preservation of land for purposes of farming and for conservation. I'd ask for your favorable consideration, and Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer any questions.
The gentleman has no questions.
I yield the well.
Gentlemen, yield the well. We'll recognize we have someone to speak in favor. One of the members, a lady from Junction City, Representative Buckner, is recognized to speak to the bill. Representative Debbie Buckner. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in support of this resolution for a variety of reasons. I know a lot of people that live in town that have a quarter-acre lot think 4,000 acres is a lot of land, and it is. But what happens in a lot of parts of our state is that there was farmland that was divided among large families. Many times it was a family that would have maybe 10, 15, 20 children. And as grandma and granddaddy passed away and it was divvied out, and then maybe some of those people never married or had children, and the numbers got smaller and smaller over time, what we found is what is seen happening across the state is that land that people acquired, bought from hard work, laboring on the land for many, many years, is falling to fewer people instead of many people. And when that happens and you try to get a CUVA, you find yourself 250 acres over the 2,000. When it was decided that they would up the amount from 2,000 to 4,000, quite honestly, it was just an arbitrary number to increase it. Most of the states in the United States do not have a cap on this because they want people planting trees and doing conservation on as much land as possible. And that's what this is about. It is a conservation use. It is to help people be able to afford to keep the land cleared, to do the prescribed burns, to plant the trees, which are not cheap. And they have to plant them and wait 20 years for their first crop. Maybe 10 or 15 sometimes, but it's on average 15 to 20 years. So they're not cash crops that come around every year. And the last thing that I want to say about that is when we think about that this is something that's helping with conservation, it's not just helping the people out in the hinterlands of Georgia. When you have clean air anywhere in Georgia, when you have clean water anywhere in Georgia, it's because of forest land that's everywhere in Georgia. And we need to be sure that we help as much as possible. So I urge your favorable support of this resolution because it will help keep Georgia growing trees. It will help keep Georgia have communities that, quite frankly, when you think about giving a tax break in a rural community, you think, well, maybe that's hurting that community. But trees don't have to have police. Trees don't have to have schools. Trees don't have to have a lot of the things that high-end neighborhoods do. And so we are keeping the farmlands and the tree lands growing, and that's what we want to have happen in Georgia for clean air and clean water. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I urge everyone to vote in favor of this, and I yield the well.
The lady's yielded the well, and she knows of what she speaks. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the adoption of House Resolution 32, the yeas are 168, the nays are 5. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 473, 473?
House Bill 473 by Representative Stevens and the 164th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 to Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to controlled substances so as to provide for certain provisions relating to Schedule 1 controlled substances. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from, is it Garden City or Port Wentworth? Savannah. That was close. Represents the gentleman from Savannah, Chairman Ron Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This you may recognize as our annual drug update that our department sends to us. It has to do with the Board of Pharmacy and also the drugs and narcotics. As you're flipping through, I've had some of you come down and ask, what does this mean? If you're starting, the first 4 sections are talking about Schedule I drugs. That's drugs that are typically highly abused and have no medical use. The first one there is an opiate, very similar to, in the same class as heroin. The second one is a mushroom. The third one is a stimulant, ethylphenidate. Some of you might recognize that as methylphenidate, which of course is given for kids under the brand name of Ritalin. And again, the next one, of course, it used to be an odorant put in a natural gas to give some sort of odor so that you could tell if there was a leak. That's not used anymore. All the rest of these in Section 5 are dangerous drugs. You won't find these in your 7-Eleven store, but they do everything from cardiac myopathies, cancer, blood pressure, all the way down the list. And I'll be glad to tell you which one of them does if you're interested. But if not, I hope you'll go along and vote for the annual drug update bill, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
To your right, if you'll yield, Representative Sanchez is recognized for a question.
Certainly.
Does the gentleman yield?
Sure.
Thank you for this bill. Just a quick question. I saw that one of the things that are being added to the dangerous drug list, which means it includes a prescription, is the monkeypox vaccine. Can you just explain that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The mpox vaccine, I believe. It's on line 79, if I'm mistaken.
That falls into all the vaccines in a class of categories. And of course, you'll also
74.
see below that, you're probably going to be the next one to ask that, the allergy. There's a list of those that are in allergy extracts as well for peanut allergies.
Got it.
Those you won't find in 7-Eleven either.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sir.
Gentleman, yield for another question. Representative McQueen to your left.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
So speaking about those allergens, specifically the peanut allergen powder.
Yes.
As someone who suffers from a severe peanut allergy, and I know that I have students who do as well, would that make it harder for us to get the treatments and the prescriptions that we need?
Not at all. That's already in your physician's office, which, by the way, can dispense. So he already has this in his office. Your allergist, whenever you go to visit those, this is standard in their office.
Thank you.
Gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the way.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Thank you for the presentation. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 473, the yeas are 170, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 399, 399?
House Bill 399 by Representative Oliver, the 84th and others, to be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to landlord and tenants in general, so as to require certain residential landlords to have in-state staff to manage tenants' communications related to such properties. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Oliver is recognized to present the bill. The lady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to bring for your favorable consideration and hopefully your vote House Bill 399, which addresses issue of accountability of the out-of-state large investors, large hedge funds, large moneyed entities that are purchasing significant portions of our single-family homes across Georgia, particularly targeting the Atlanta area. Specifically, House Bill 399 says that any landlord who's not a resident of Georgia who owns 25 or more single-family homes shall employ a local broker real estate agent and have at least one person in Georgia who can be identified as receiving complaints for the tenants of the significant numbers of single-family homes that are acquired for rental use. I have worked with the realty community to improve this bill, and they have emphasized to me the opportunity that the Real Estate Commission can have over the absentee landlords who are not repairing and not receiving and not implementing repairs as tenants are requesting. Last week I shared with you an AJC article about the deaths of 3 children who died in Atlanta area, and the out-of-state landlord, that was apartments, and this bill 399 only applies to single-family homes, that was unidentified, would not answer, and could not be located in terms of the deaths of these 3 children. The issue of accountability of the out-of-state investor is a growing significance in our state, and I'd like to give you some specific numbers, and I ask the gentleman who controls the board up there to show us a map. There are 2 entities, Invitation Homes and Progress Residential, that own more than 10,000 homes each. There are 7 entities that own a total of 51,000 single-family homes. Gwinnett County is the #1 county for acquisition of single-family homes by these out-of-state investors. This map is not easy to read, but the top map, the darkest areas are the house districts that have more than 50% of single-family homes owned by out-of-state investors, and the bottom map is the census tracts. These maps were prepared by geography professors at Georgia State. We also had hearings, thank you to the chairman of the Government Affairs Committee, that brought to us academics from both Georgia State and Georgia Tech to discuss the significant impact on our economy of this purchase of single-family homes. Bringing it home to House District 84, there are 1,012 single-family homes in House District 84 that I represent that are owned by out-of-state investors, and 42.3% of those 1,012 homes are owned by an out-of-state investor. Why is this important? I think that we all know why it's important. It affects our economy in significant ways. If you are a single family, young family looking to purchase a home, these investors are taking assets out of Georgia. They're making a profit on the rents charge, they're making a profit on the acceleration of values, and that profit is not being enjoyed and earned by Georgia families. It affects the economy of the developer. If you're trying to develop a suburb, if you're trying to develop new housing stock, you are going to be competing with these entities who are going to raise the prices, take it away from your opportunity. It's even going to affect the governor, who is trying to create workforce housing across Georgia. This is a big deal, and I think that 399 is a small step. There are many of you who have talked with me about this issue, both sides of the aisle, obviously. There are several other bills that Governor Affairs Chair allowed us to have a good discussion about, and I'm delighted that more of us are recognizing the phenomena of loss of wealth from the individual families and from the businesses of Georgia. Thank you again for this opportunity to discuss this major issue. Let me personalize it a little more. For the last 80 years, since World War II, when 2 generations of the Oliver family purchased their first home during World War II, as my dad was going off to the Navy, in a small old neighborhood within 1 mile of Emory University. We have 2 generations owned 5 homes since World War II, And each one of those homes close to the same community where we had small businesses, we had good schools, we had safe neighborhoods, and we were able to acquire equities through these homes over a long period of time. When my parents' home in older neighborhood, they were not able to be there by themselves, and my mother came to live with me, the equity from that home allowed her to have full-time home care in my home for many years into her 90s. I say this to you, that this is an issue that affects all of us. It's an issue that I'm glad we're paying attention to. And Mr. Speaker, I am happy to stand for questions.
Thank you for your explanation of the bill. You do have a couple of questions. The lady's going to, will she yield?
Yes, sir.
Representative Hefner to your left, about midway's back.
Thank you, Representative. Did the gentlelady yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you. I will be supporting this bill because of what it offers renters, especially in the occurrences of natural disasters where they need to have some immediacy and some response. But does the gentlelady yield for a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it true that this bill does not interfere with the Federal Civil Service Members Relief Act, where those members who are military, veterans, or active duty are deployed? It maintains all of their rights in terms of terminating leases, procuring mortgages, and notification. Is that not true?
It is true, ma'am. Thank you very much for that good question.
Thank you.
To your right, Representative Beth Camp is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for bringing this bill. Is it not true that what this bill does, it's very short, but it puts the purview of the Georgia Real Estate Commission over the property managers. So if someone is a bad actor, there is actually an entity that they can contact, and the people who are the bad actors, their license can be in jeopardy, and their ability to rent in our state could be compromised if they do not fulfill their duties as landlords.
You're exactly right, and that's why this suggestion made to me by the realtors to increase the opportunity for enforcement was such a good idea. There's ongoing discussion about how this bill and these issues can be further improved. I appreciate the help that I've received from many of you, again, both parties, and I look forward to continuing this discussion. We know realtors in our community, and we know that they care about improving the values for families to enjoy the homes that they're purchasing. We have to put them a little bit more towards the center of these discussions and allow them to be protective of our constituents in these difficult issues of out-of-state ownership.
Representative Phil Olalier to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that establishing a locally based representative and a clear line of communication with out-of-state landlords would only serve but to increase response times and improve living conditions for children, youth, and families?
I believe that's true, and it also creates enforcement for those out-of-state landlords who are not going to comply in the way that the code requires them, housing codes require them to respond. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the bill.
Mr. Speaker.
You have another question to your right. Representative Hong is recognized. If you'll take her question, you're further to your right.
Yes, sir.
Way around. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, ma'am.
The second part, where the person must be located within the state, would a registered agent be somebody that would qualify
Yes,
in that
sir.
situation?
If they are the broker or the real estate agent himself, herself, would qualify for that. That's correct.
Thank you.
But if it's an out-of-state, you can have a real estate agent at license in Tennessee and be governed by the Real Estate Commission of Georgia, even though you reside in Tennessee. We put that provision in so we would close the loophole of having somebody in Georgia available and identified to receive complaints by tenants. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 399, the yeas are 163, the nays are 4. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 612?
House Bill 612 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2, Title 37 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding the administration of mental health, developmental disabilities, addictive diseases, and other disability services. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The lady from Rome, Georgia, is recognized to present the bill. Representative Chairlady Katie Dempsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Many of you were here in 2022 when we passed the Mental Health Parity Act, HB 1013. We still struggle
Proceed.
That act endeavored to ensure that mental health and substance abuse treatment receive the exact same insurance coverage as physical health services do. There are still struggles involved in this, though. While we do have an online portal for challenges to be reported on, there is concern that the data may not be accurate. So this bill takes a step forward by adding a member to the Behavioral Health Coordinating Council. One member will be added. I serve on that council, and I think it will be a great thing for this to be added. The Commissioner of Insurance will be there and have a voice to represent the challenges that we face. It will also establish a parity compliance review panel made up of 6 members to actually put their muscle behind making sure that we are delivering what we promised in a bill back in 2022. It will hold insurers accountable for parity compliance, creating a formal mechanism to review and address complaints. This bill is a significant step forward, ensuring that mental health care is treated equally to physical health care with the insurance system of our state of Georgia. Mr. Speaker, that is the bill. If there are any questions, I'll be able to take them.
Lady has no further questions, or no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well and ask for your favorable support to help true Georgians with true needs.
Thank you for the bill. Lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 612, the yeas are 170, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 454, 454?
House Bill 454 by Representative Gaines, the 120th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to parks, historic areas, memorials, and recreation so as to create the Vince Dooley Battlefield Trust Fund and Vince Dooley Battlefield Trust Fund program. This bill then referred to the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks. That committee recommend that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
The gentleman from Athens, Representative Houston Gaines, is recognized to present the bill. Representative Gaines.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to present House Bill 454, the Vince Dooley Battlefield Trust, a bill that will help us preserve some of our historic battlefields in Georgia. This legislation is named for the late, great Coach Vince Dooley, a lifelong history buff and a proponent of battlefield conservation and a great friend to many of us here today. Coach Dooley loved history, and he served on the board for the American Battlefield Trust. This bill will create a trust fund administered by the Department of Natural Resources, and importantly, it doesn't create any new administration or a new board to oversee this effort. The fund may include appropriations if we were to do so in the budget. It also would include public or private grants, gifts, donations, or contributions dedicated to the fund. DNR would review and approve project proposals for matching grants for the purchase or permanent protective interests in our Georgia battlefields. This measure does require that any organization selected for grants must match dollar for dollar any money given to the fund. Many other states up and down the East Coast have invested similar efforts that work to preserve historic battlefields, including Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky, and others. The federal government has done similar and often matches state and private funds. As we see more and more development creeping throughout our state, I think efforts to preserve these historic sites has never been more important. And in doing so, we'll help share and preserve our country's history and help educate future generations of Americans. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Gentleman has a question to your left. Chairman Petrie, your extreme left. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
My friend, is it not true that the tide was turned in the Revolution by wars in the South, and many of those battlefields are here in Georgia? Kettle Creek, Briar Creek, Siege of Savannah, Siege of Augusta, men like John Twiggs and so many others, Lackland McIntosh. And we've really failed to recognize those sites as well as we could. You've given us an opportunity to do that, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and appreciate your support and support of this body, and would ask for everyone's favorable consideration. I'll read the will.
You can ask, Representative Donahue has a question.
Sorry.
I think that would be your last one.
Sorry,
Gentleman's recognized.
Another question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir. To my delegation, mate.
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry I'm losing my voice, but is it not true that the Vince Dooley Battlefield Trust Fund Act will significantly aid in preserving our state historic battlefields for the future generations to come?
It does. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank
you. Take care.
Thank you.
The gentleman has no further questions.
I'll yield the will.
The gentleman has yielded the will. Thank you for bringing the bill. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are of House Bill 454, I'm sorry. The yeas are 157, the nays are 14. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 9191?
House Bill 9-1 by Representative Cooper, the 45th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 50 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to licensing so as to provide for a licensure for graduates of foreign colleges or schools of veterinary medicine who are board certified in a specialty. This bill I referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Sharon Cooper is recognized to present the bill. Chair Lady Cooper.
Not. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the substitute to House Bill 91. Across our state, we are in dire need of more vets, and we are especially in need of vets that are board certified, believe it or not. There's a 3-year course, sometimes a 4-year course for vets to further their education and become board certified in surgery and orthopedics, in all, basically, pretty much all the specialties we have in medicine. And this would allow vets that have gone to a foreign vet school, but most of them are already in this country, and they go to usually an American school for this 4-year course or 3-year course, and it would allow them to practice to be, and they are certified by one of the board certification approved boards in our state. They would be allowed to practice in the state of Georgia. If there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, that's what the bill does, and I will yield the well. Thank you.
Lady has no questions. Ladies yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 91, the yeas are 169, the nays are 0. The bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 398?
House Bill 398 by Representative Hagan and the 156 and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 26 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to standards, labeling, and adulteration of food so as to authorize the production and sale of cottage food items with certain exemptions, requirements, and disclosures. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
You got something you can put up in a minute. Tell us when you're ready. Representative Hagan is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you will remember, if you were here last year, we passed this bill overwhelmingly out of this body, and I'm bringing it back to you now for your consideration again. This bill encourages small business growth and entrepreneurship by opening a new delivery stream for our cottage food operators. If you remember, our cottage food operators are licensed through the Department of Ag. They produce non-potentially hazardous food goods, which means they don't require temperature control because they are not known to they're not capable of supporting the rapid growth of botulism and some other toxins. So these are safe foods, non-potentially hazardous. It's a booming industry for a lot of people. Currently, sales of cottage food products are only allowed directly to the consumer. This bill would allow sales via a third-party seller like a grocery store or a restaurant. And why does this matter? Because cottage food operators are, at their very core, just pure entrepreneurs. They get an idea, they go to their kitchen, and they see if they can make it work. They get licensed through the Department of Ag, and there's your business. So this is something that those of us that support small business would definitely want to encourage. It'll get their products in front of more of their potential consumers. And also, according to the Department of Agriculture, most, if not all of us, have got cottage food operators in our district. And they are very excited to potentially have another stream of delivery for their products. So, Mr. Speaker, I would stand for a question if there is one, but I would also ask for your favorable consideration for this bill to encourage entrepreneurism and growth of small businesses in our state.
Lady has no questions.
Thank you very much. I yield the will.
Ladies yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purpose is Representative Camp rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true this bill ensures consumer protection by requiring proper labeling and disclosure for all cottage food products sold in Georgia?
That's what I read. I thought it was a good bill. Thank you for the question. Have all members voted? All members voted. For what purpose is Representative Wilkerson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry, sir.
Is it not true that the delicious turtles that many of our members enjoy are our cottage food products? And I am very much appreciative of all those that have supported this bill.
I know the gentleman knows of what he speaks, and he's pretty good at those cottage foods, too. Thank you for your benefiting us all. Mr. Clerk, I think all the members have voted. All members voted. If so, will you please lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 398, HB 398. The yeas are 171, the nays are 2. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 255?
House Bill 255 by Representative McLean of the 109th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-286 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to special license plates promoting or supporting certain worthy agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations with proceeds dispersed to the general fund. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
A great former Atlanta Falcon and a great member of this House, Representative Dewey McLean, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I bring you all HB 255. HB 255, it established a specialty license plate for Southern University and the Delta Sigma Theta. I heard our chairman say today was Delta Day. We had roughly 250 Delta members in the House today, so I want you all to realize that the funds from these tags will go there. I want you all to know that 1/30th of the members in this House, I know you all are trying to get those numbers together, but 1/30th of the members, 1/30th of the members in this House are Deltas. That's good, 6. So there's 6 Deltas in this House. I want you all to realize Representative Jackson is a Delta. Representative Davis is a Delta. Representative, I guess the red is what we have in the House today is almost Delta. Everybody that's not wearing red some of us are wearing red. They're not really Deltas, but we have Representative. You all have to bring it down some. I have Representative Berno, Representative McQueen, and Representative Cummings. So those are the 6 that are Deltas in the House. And Representative Jones, and Representative Jones. So I want you all to know that this is a tag that this will help them do the things they want to do in the community. Southern University is we have some great alumnus in the state of Georgia from Southern. The Keith Gamage, who is the solicitor of Fulton County, he's from Southern University. I always tell people that Karen Cobb, who's also the judge in West, who's in Cobb County, is the judge from Southern University. And always, since we know a little about football, Mel Blunt, the All-Pro defensive back, he was a graduate of Southern University. No, I did not go to Southern University. I want to make that clear. But it was one of the schools as a young high schooler I did apply to, but they didn't want any Oklahoma kids. Don't know why. But with that in mind, Mr. Speaker, I ask for everyone to support these two great organizations because they do a lot of things for the community, as well as a lot of our students in Georgia go to Southern University. In fact, there were over 800 that applied last year, and 350 plus were admitted. So with that in mind, Mr. Speaker, I'll take any questions as long as they're not football.
I don't know about that part, but you have a whole heap of questions.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, wait a minute. This is not my first bill, so I don't need all these questions, okay? This is not, no.
Well, and the other part of it, you're bigger than any of these want to ask you a question, too, so I think they best recognize that. Representative Berry is recognized for a question. He's to your left, right in front of your seat back there. The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, I will yield for my seatmate, my sweet mate, and somebody that I see roughly, no, yes, I do.
So is it not true that you have not presented a bill in a minute, correct?
I'm sorry?
Is it not true that you've not presented a bill before us in a minute, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Will you further yield?
Yes.
Think you do it again to get some more practice for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. But I want to say thank you very much for that question, because he was back there working on a question, and I gave him one, but I answered it already, that I did not attend Southern University. Mr. Speaker.
You got to train them, Representative.
Yes.
So you got a couple more. I'm going to add, if you'll take two more from Representative. I think you said something about it. Representative Bernal is recognized. Did you have a question?
Mr. Bernal, yes, I will.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do.
Is it not true that I am a graduate of Southern University?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, that is so true. She is what we call a twofer. She is a graduate of Southern University, and she's also a Delta Sigma Theta. So she is a twofer in this house.
There's no doubt. Now, this is the last one. This is an important question. I'm not sure where he graduated from, but I'm sure y'all will work this out. Representative Al Williams from down on the coast has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do, for my friend, my Cigar Caucus friend. Yes, I do.
Is it not true that you are one for?
That is true.
What I mean is, you really wanted the tags to be from your school, but you were the only graduate in all of Georgia that went to your school in Oklahoma. So we couldn't possibly do it.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield away, but I do know there's two, because the president of Valdosta State is a graduate of East Central University. Yes. So I just want you to know that. Mr. Speaker, with that, I'm going to yield the well.
The gentleman's yield the well. Thank you for your persistence on getting this done. We're glad to work on it. The gentleman's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? It's not his first bill, remember. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 255, the yeas are 168, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 229?
House Bill 229 by Representative Neal of the 79th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4883 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating exemptions from sales and use taxes so as to exempt from local taxes the sale or use of materials used in construction of capital outlay projects. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
You ready, Representative Neal? Representative Yasmin Neal is recognized to present House Bill 229. The lady's recognized.
Thank you to the Speaker. Thank you to this body. Today I bring to you House Bill 229. All this bill does is allows for local school districts who have eSPLOST capital building projects to have their local sales taxes exempt when they purchase construction materials. This just allows for school districts to save a few extra dollars during their educational developments, which they can reinvest in their communities. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for your favorable consideration.
Lady has no questions.
Thank you.
She's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 229, the yeas are 169, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Resolution 69? House Resolution 69.
House Resolution 69 by Representative Barnes of the 86th and others, a resolution recognizing every third Thursday in April is Biomedical Research Day. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Health. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Representative Monty Barnes is recognized to present House Resolution 69. Representative Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here today asking for your favorable consideration for House Resolution 69. House Resolution 69 would recognize Biomedical Research Day every third Thursday in April to bring awareness for scientists and that do the research and result in medical advancements for both humans and animals to help diagnose, prevent disease, and treat disease. So I ask for your favorable consideration to pass H.R. 69 to recognize Biomedical Research Awareness Day.
Lady, yield for a question.
Yes, please.
Representative Park Cannon to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of diseases do biomedical professionals work with?
Any disease that you can think of: cancer, Alzheimer's, sickle cell, alcoholism. Biomedical researchers work with every disease you can think of and help create treatments for animals and humans.
Lady has no further questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Ladies yielded the well. Is any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. For what purpose does Whip Burchett rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that the representative that was just in the well, this may be her first bill?
Oh, she almost slipped by, didn't she? I see the chairman of the caucus is back there with her, though. Good catch. For what purpose does the leader of the minority caucus rise, Representative Hughley?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that even though it was her first bill, she did an outstanding job?
Looks like she's going to squeak by to me. So I guess she did. All members voted. Congratulations on the first bill. You did a great job. All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? Oh, he's a little slow. On the adoption of House Resolution 69, the yeas are 171, the nays are 1. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Congratulations to the lady. Mr. Clerk, we'll give it just a minute. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of House Bill 141?
House Bill 141 by Representative Montana the 17th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 481314 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to levy on business or practitioner within location or office in more than one jurisdiction, allocating gross receipts and limits on levies using criteria for taxation. This bill item referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Montahan is recognized to present House Bill 141. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, today I rise to present House Bill 141. This bill seeks to protect the financial privacy of businesses, ensuring local governments continue to receive the revenue they need to function effectively. Currently, when businesses report their gross receipts for the purposes of calculating local business taxes, they often are required to submit detailed financial records, including tax returns, P&Ls, and other proprietary financial documents to local jurisdictions. This practice raises several concerns for small business owners and entrepreneurs across our state. Many business owners are understandably reluctant to disclose sensitive financial data to government entities, particularly when that information includes proprietary vendor relationships, competitive pricing details, payroll data, and other confidential financial records. So, under House Bill 141, Businesses will no longer be required to turn over their full financial records to local governments in order to determine their occupational tax liability. Instead, a CPA who is bound by strict ethical and fiduciary standards could certify the gross receipts on behalf of the business. The local government will continue to collect the required business occupation tax, ensuring no loss of revenue for the jurisdiction, while also protecting the privacy of business owners. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions.
Let's see, the gentleman has a question, if he'll yield.
I'll take one.
Representative Ramon, to your left, right up the center aisle, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
So if, for example, the city had questions about any of the financial information, could they still request the tax returns, or does that mean they just can't request that at all?
No, if a CPA certifies these results and the financial information, that is what they're going to get under this bill.
The gentleman has no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objections to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 141, the yeas are 158, the nays are 16. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 165? 165.
House Bill 165 by Representative Franklin of the 160th and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to revenue and taxation so as to repeal and reserve an income tax credit for business enterprises for leased motor vehicles. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Lehman Franklin is recognized to present the bill. Representative Franklin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, this is another way to try to help with the hurricane relief disaster that we've had. It's another attempt to do all that we can for those that were hurt. But basically what this bill does is it would extend the net casualty loss deduction to non-itemizers who would take the deduction on top of that standard deduction. So we currently do not conform to the federal standard deduction, so to conform with the federal intention to allow this deduction, we would need the additional clarifying language. So having said all of that, basically, if you don't qualify for to take the itemized return, you can take this casualty deduction on your standard return. And that's all the bill does. Mr. Speaker, I'll take any questions that you may have.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
The gentleman's yielded the will. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? The chair hears none. The committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? So they won't. Have all members voted? All members voted. For what purpose does Representative Cameron rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that by updating our tax code with a fair standard deduction, we're strengthening the Georgia economy and putting more money back in the hands of working Georgians?
I know the gentleman knows of what he speaks, whether you're in North Georgia or South Georgia. That fact holds. Have all members now voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 165, the yeas are 173, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 262?
House Bill 262 by Representative Osteen of the 169th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating the Department of Community Health so as to provide for a grant program for the purposes of acquiring and installing backup generators. This bill having referred to the Committee on Rural Development, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Let's see, the author of this bill is a lady from rural South Georgia, Representative Angie. Wait just a minute now. I was going to say something nice about you, but I will. Lady from rural South Georgia who knows a little bit about hospitals and health care. Would that be correct? I think she's a nurse. In some point in her life has been a nurse, still is a nurse. Once a nurse, always a nurse, right? Representative Angie Osteen is recognized to present the bill. Representative Osteen, now you're ready. No, you look like a veteran to me. I wasn't going to say anything about it being your first time in the well.
It's a picture.
The lady's recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is not my normal MO to correct my authority figure, but this is technically not my first time in the well.
Ma'am? No, you have been to the well before, haven't you?
Yes, sir, I've been to the well in this very house.
You've asked several questions over there without pushing your button as well, too. So you're a real veteran of this process.
That might be because I've had a lot of help from my friend Chaz Cannon and Brent Cox. But Mr. Speaker, can I call your attention to this picture over here? This picture was made in 1988. My senior year of high school, because I came here through youth assembly and debated bills all throughout high school, and that was the picture of the one and only time that I got my first bill passed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning or good evening, whatever it is, this afternoon. I'm not even sure. It's been such a long day. I bring to you House Bill 262. I'll be quick. This bill would establish a grant for rural hospitals to correct an obvious problem that Hurricane Helene unveiled during its path of destruction through Georgia last September. The current required minimum generating capacity proved to be woefully insufficient during this time of widespread disaster, with some hospitals going without power and water for a week or more. The criteria for this grant are as follows. Must be a rural hospital located in a rural community within one of the 41 counties included in the governor's state of emergency after July 1st, 2024, and it must contain fewer than 100 beds located in those counties with a population of less than 50,000 residents. There are potentially 30 qualifying rural hospitals in those counties. The current financial state of these rural hospitals makes capital expenditures of increased generator capacity prohibitive. On a personal note, would you look at this next picture? That is a picture of my little 81-year-old daddy who almost lost his battle with a deadly bilateral pneumonia. At the point this picture was made, he was hospitalized for 49 days. He was scheduled to be discharged on September the 26th. Thankfully, the nurse at the hospital in Jeff Davis County said, I think that let's just see what this storm does before I send you home because you're oxygen dependent. Little did she know the wrath that it would bring the next day, and he spent 17 more days in the hospital because they didn't have power. That hospital went without power for 7 days. They could not flush toilets. They could not wash hands. They had to reduce everything that only the little generators would operate, and thankfully it operated the ventilators and the oxygen. So I know you're going to have fun with me with this bill, but at the end of the day, these hospitals are dependent on us, and these communities are dependent on us. So I would greatly appreciate your favorable consideration. I will yield for questions reluctantly, Mr. Speaker.
Well, we're going to see if the second time is a charm. I don't know if you passed it that first time when you were in this well a few years ago. This is a great bill. It's a great need. Our hospitals, whether in rural Georgia or urban Georgia, are a lifeline to so many of us. But you do have a couple of questions. I can't, and if the lady's going to answer them, I'll let you have a shot at them.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it then. Representative Gamble, he weighs, boy, you got to him. Some people in this chamber do have a heart. Let's see about these other guys. Well, I said that too quickly because Representative Jason Ridley is recognized for a question to your right. Way back here. Yes, ma'am. Gentleman's recognized.
Does the gentlelady yield?
Well, just remember this, Representative Ridley. My predecessor is sitting right over there, and he's watching you. But yes, I will yield.
Well, this kind of comes from him, believe it or not. Is it not true that the other day, and I guess this still stands, the other day we had your bill on, but we had to go back and make a little adjustment to it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And on that morning, we got a call from Athens, Georgia, from a certain little girl. And she said, y'all better not be mean to my mama.
You sure did get that phone call.
And so I'm not going to be mean to her mama. One, because her husband's sitting back there and he's bigger than me. But thank you for bringing this bill. It's a great bill.
Thank you so much.
Lady, yield for a question to Representative Meeks to your right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
On lines 16 and 17, where you indicate that the hospital must be in a region that was declared a disaster or state of emergency after July 1, 2024, is it your intent that moving forward as another disaster is indeed experienced in some of these rural communities that those hospitals would then qualify?
Say that again now. Hit me with that one more time.
On line 16 and 17, where it's 100 beds and located in a region of the state in which the governor declared a state of emergency after July 1, 2024.
That's for those 41 counties that the governor declared a state of emergency after that date.
Right, but moving forward, say this year we have another state of emergency issue, would those hospitals and those communities then qualify?
I would be open to that, but that's not what this bill directs to.
Okay. It just says after July 1, 2024. I thought it would be indeed did qualify.
That's not what this bill is for, right? Am I correct? Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes sounds like a pretty good answer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
You're not yielding the well, are you?
No, sir.
Oh, no,
I'm here.
Let's see. You have a lot of friends. Let's get a good question from a lady from rural Georgia as well. Representative Hagan is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate. Do you yield?
I do yield to my friend.
Yes. Thank you for all your hard work on this. We have had many conversations about what should be included and how this would best serve the communities that need it most. And I'm wondering if you considered putting nursing homes, including nursing homes, in this bill.
I appreciate that question very much. I did consider it. It was brought to my attention. And I'm very tender to that because I had a grandmother that spent 7 years there, and my husband's grandmother spent many years there, so I am very sensitive to that. But specifically, when times of crisis hit, I watched these hospitals. Nursing home patients need to come to the hospital. We don't transfer patients from the hospital to the nursing home. So this is our first line of defense. And to that point, there were actually people who brought portable home oxygen that you recharge. They actually brought those to the hospital so that they could get charged up. So all that is ground zero. That is the point where everything starts, or the hospital. So thank you for that question. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you bringing the bill.
Just a couple more, if the lady will take one from Representative Sharper to your left, all the way in the back.
Yes.
All right, the gentleman and lady yield.
Yes, sir. To my friend, I do.
All right. There you go, my friend, and a good husband, a good friend of your husband as well. But I've been in the medical field for over 35 years now, and I'm glad she brought up the situation about the nursing homes. I think that's something that we need to look forward to in the future, because when you have a nursing home that goes down, or multiple nursing homes goes down, you don't have enough ambulances or anything, first responders, to be able to go, for one, to check on those patients, and also if they have to leave the nursing home and go to the hospital, that's a nightmare, especially when you have other emergencies going on. But I 100% support this bill, but I think in the future we need to also look at the nursing homes getting the same grants. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I want to kind of piggyback off that. In addition to people, where I was in Coffee County, we have a cardiac cath lab. It was shut down because we could not operate it. There was not enough generating capacity to operate it. But over in Representative Werkheiser's district, one of his hospitals, they were in the same position that we were. Some of those machines are cryogenically cooled, and a machine cost $600,000. The deductible for it was $598,000. They were within 1 hour of losing that entire machine. 1 hour of losing that entire machine. So it's in addition to equipment, medication, more than people. Thank you so much.
Representative Todd Jones is interested in asking you a question. Would you yield to Representative Jones? To your right.
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I am going to regret this, but yes, sir, I do.
We have a very important scientific question. In 1985, Marty McFly learned that it took 1.21 gigawatts to go back to the future. We need to know how many 1 megawatt generators would it take to travel in time?
Mr. Speaker, I think that today is a good day, since I heard that Terry England has stood up. I think today is a good day to pay homage to our friend Terry England, because I hear that he is a Jerry Clower fan, just like me. And I'm going to pay homage to him with an old classic called The Chauffeur and the Professor. So I am going to defer that question to my professor, who is Chairman John Corbett, and I will yield the well.
Ladies, yielded the well. Excellent job. We appreciate you staying with us. And we do have a speaker on the bill. Speaking in favor, Representative Mac Jackson, who knows a little bit about rural Georgia and rural issues. Representative Jackson, appreciate you speaking on the bill. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in support of House Bill 262. Hurricane Helene was possibly the most worst natural disaster in many of our lifetimes. The devastation and loss of lives, the loss of electricity was horrendous. The power outages necessitate the use of generators in most of our communities. It was a vital service not only in our homes but in our hospitals. And this legislation is a fix for critical access hospitals. But even though we're taking this necessary step, we must not forget our community health care centers, who played a vital role in the recovery efforts following the hurricane. They too need the necessary backup generators, especially in our rural communities. So while I support House Bill 262, I'm advocating for generators for our community health care centers too. Thank you, and I yield the well.
The gentleman's yielded well. Yes, we have some more work to do in that area. That concludes our comments on House Bill 262. No further speakers. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 262, the yeas are 173, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Congratulations. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of the group of privileged resolutions?
Commending the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council upon its 50th anniversary, commending the Georgia peanut industry, and recognizing March 4, 2025 as Georgia Peanut Day at the state capitol. Congratulating and commending Michelle Calvo for receiving the 2025 Yellow Rose Nikki T. Randall Service Leadership Award, recognizing and commending Reverend Art Wilder upon the occasion of his retirement, recognizing and commending Catherine Fletcher for her service as chair of the Georgia Society of Certified Public Accountants, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privileged resolution? Hearing none, the resolutions are adopted. We'll move on to afternoon orders. Representative Hahn, you're recognized for an afternoon order. Members, lady will hold up, lady, if you will suspend just for a moment, Representative Hahn. Members, if you will stand with the representative and myself. She has a afternoon order of condolences. Ladies recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, please join me today in celebrating and honoring the life of my Wheeler High School classmate and a great Georgian, Amir Abdur Rahim. Coach Amir dedicated his life to basketball, not only as a player, but as an inspiring coach. As a head coach of Kennesaw State University, he led the basketball team to the program's first NCAA tournament appearance in 2023. He inspired countless individuals and truly wanted the best for his student athletes, not only on the basketball court, but in life. I still remember always looking up to him when we were in high school, not only because he was so much taller than me, but because he was a leader. Before his passing in October of last year, he was the head coach of the University of South Florida, where he emphasized integrity and community engagement. He was a loving husband to his wife, a dedicated father to their 3 children, and shared his love for basketball with his brother, Sharif Abdur Rahim. He left us too young, but his legacy lives on. He will continue to be honored through initiatives such as the Love Wins Classic. I'm proud to present a resolution honoring him. And if you can join me in a moment of silence. Mr. Speaker, we're also joined by his mother, Deborah, his sister, and a few of our classmates and friends here today. If they can stand, and I'd like to give a round of applause in honoring and celebrating Amira. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the well.
Members, if you remain standing. To the family, thank you for being here. Life ended way too soon. What an outstanding gentleman. Thank you, and we're sorry for your loss. Representative Schofield is recognized for a remembrance. Members, if you'll remain standing. And she has some friends with her. Representative Schofield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. On Thursday, March 27th, my community lost a man with a huge heart, an immeasurable helping hand, and a strong love for his community. Mr. Maurice Davis was the owner of JMR Tire Shop in Southeast Atlanta. He was gunned down by a man he employed, a person he was helping turn his life around in the right direction. Tragically, he was murdered in front of his own son, who also worked with him. Maurice was always extending an olive branch to help others. During the summer, I kept reminding myself I wanted to provide him and give him a resolution, honoring his service to the community and acknowledging him as a small business owner. I knew he had never been to the Capitol and would never come. So I said to myself, let me wait till I get back to the Capitol and I'll put the resolution in. About 2 weeks ago, he put air in my tires and I said to him, I want to do something nice for you because you're such a good person and a pillar in the community. He laughed and then flashed a big smile and said, Rep, it ain't necessary, I'm just here to help. I didn't file the resolution thinking I had time before Sonny died. I'm sad at the missed opportunity. So this body, if something is laid on your heart for someone else, do it. To the family, Maurice was loved. He loved his family. We talked about his children all the time. And even though he's gone, it was through JMR Tires that he showed his love to the community. To the community, it's tough, but we'll heal together as we will truly miss a servant and friend to most. Let's bow our heads and send up a silent prayer for all who knew Maurice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Thank you for that, and our best wishes and condolences to the family. Representative Bazemore. Representative Bazemore and some friends are recognized for an afternoon orders. Thank you, members, for standing and your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder, we had this invitation some time ago, but then the ice and snow decided we had to cancel and get another day for this. So I'm reminding you all that you are invited to the Ramadan Iftar dinner honoring Georgia's legislators and leaders. And that's going to be tomorrow at 5 p.m. Program starts at 5:30 down in the Blue Room at the Freight Depot. So please come and enjoy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Thank you. That concludes our afternoon orders. We have a couple of motions. For what purpose does Representative Cooper rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the rules be temporarily suspended so that a bill may be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Cooper, the 45th and others to be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 34, Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to the Medical Practice Act of the State of Georgia.
On the lady's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended so a bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee. Is there objection? Public and Community Health. For what purpose does Representative Brad Thomas rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
Motion, House Bill 668 be moved from Agricultural and Consumer Affairs to Public and Community Health. Both chairs agree.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill number 668 by Representative Thomas, the 21st, and others be titled Act to amend Title 16, Chapter 4, Title 30, and Chapter 6 and Title 40 in the official code of Georgia annotated relating to crimes and offenses, rights of persons with disabilities, and uniform rules of the road.
On the gentleman's motion that House Bill 668 be withdrawn from the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee and be recommitted to the Public and Community Health Committee, is the objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. For what purpose does Representative Silcox rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that the House Bill 638 be moved from the Committee on Urban Affairs to the Committee on Transportation. Both chairmen are in agreement.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill number 638 by Representative Silcox, the 53rd, and others be titled Act to amend Article 2, Chapter 9, and Title 32 of the official code of Georgia, annotated relating to MARTA.
On the lady's motion, the House Bill 638 be withdrawn from the Urban Affairs Committee and recommitted to the Transportation Committee, is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. For what purpose does Representative Sheila Jones rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that the rules be temporarily suspended so that a bill may be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative Jones, the 60th, to be entitled Act to amend Chapter 4, Title 1 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to holidays and observances so as to provide that the first week of April of each year shall be Women's Golf Week in Georgia.
On the lady's motion that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended so a bill can be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? Hearing none, special rules. Yes. Okay, members, we have some announcements about committee meetings. I want to suggest to the committee chairs that meetings begin immediately upon recess. We'll do that in just a few minutes. Chairman Gunther is recognized for an announcement.
Speaker, Judiciary Committee will meet this afternoon upon adjournment. We'll only have about an hour and a half, and we got 6 bills on there. So we're going to meet in the morning at 8 a.m. and try to finish up that calendar. Thank you.
Representative Gamble is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., the fellowship will meet in House Room 132. We have a special guest tomorrow morning, and Representative Hilton is going to share who that will be.
Hey guys, my predecessor, Chairman Tom Rice, who actually started the fellowship over 20 years ago, will be hosting this tomorrow at 7 a.m. So please join us. I will be meeting him at his house early morning and driving him down here. We'd love to have a big crowd for him. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, before everyone gets out of this room, I want to recognize former member of this House, Chairman Clay Perkle, who's sitting over to my right. Let's welcome Chairman Perkle back to the People's House. Chairman Hawkins, recognized for an announcement.
The Health Committee will meet in 403 upon adjournment.
Representative Vance Smith is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Subcommittee of Resource Management of the Natural Resources and Environment Committee will meet upon adjournment in room 415 of the CLOB. 415 CLOB. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Choke is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Small Business Development Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., 5:06. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., 5:06. Thank you.
Chairman Powell is recognized for an announcement.
For the members of Regulated Industries, we'll meet in about 15 minutes. Make every attempt to be there, because I can assure you we won't be coming back at 7 in the morning.
Chairman Martin is is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I make this announcement for Chairman Parsons. His subcommittee on energy telecom, the energy subcommittee will meet at 4 o'clock, and the chairman has asked me to note the full committee will not meet this afternoon. It'll meet on its regular day tomorrow, 4 o'clock, 103.
Chairman Scoggins recognized for an announcement. What'd you say? Did I blurt you out?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Special rules will meet this afternoon at 4:30 and 5:15.
Chairman Martin's room is 403. Chairman Martin and 403. Chairman Blackman recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Subcommittees of Ways and Means will start meeting upon adjournment in room 406, and if time permits, we'll roll into full meeting this afternoon as well. Thank you very much.
Chairman Irwin recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Ed Committee will meet in room 506 CLOB upon adjournment. Thank you.
Chairman Lumsden recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The full House Insurance Committee, which was scheduled to meet in the morning at 8 o'clock, will have to be rescheduled. If you would pay attention, we will reschedule that and make an announcement for probably Wednesday. Thank you.
Chairman Petrie recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're going to reschedule the Human Relations and Aging Committee meeting for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in room 515 CLOB.
Chairman Crow is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee members, we will meet in room 606 now. We will now be in room 606 CLOB immediately following the Regulated Industries Committee. Thank you.
That concludes our announcements. Thank you, members. We had a good day. I appreciate your attention and your patience. The Majority Leader of this House, Leader F. Stration, is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House stand in recess until 5 o'clock p.m., then stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025.
On the motion of the Majority Leader that this House stands in recess until 5 p.m. today, at which time we will be adjourned until Tuesday, March the 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. in the morning. Everybody heard all of that? All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed will say no. The cool kids said aye, so this House is adjourned. The ayes have it. Sorry.